The Titanic was deemed an unsinkable ship and left for its maiden voyage on April 10, 1912. It left from Southampton and picked up more passengers at ports in France and Ireland before heading across the Atlantic Ocean. The crew of the Titanic alone was 900 people, and with the addition of passengers, the total load was over 2,200 people. The lifeboats only accommodated for 1,200 people. So when the Titanic collided with an iceberg and sank on April 15, 1912, many people passed away. Before the collision, some people sensed or saw it coming. A premonition, perhaps. Hey most amazing fam, it's your host Abby here, and today's video is top 10 scary Titanic premonitions. And while we have seen the Titanic fictionalized in the likes of the movie by the same name, real people unfortunately met their end. And not just Jack, who could have fit on that door. So let's hop into the real stories of Titanic premonitions. Let's get started with number 10, first in fiction. So an English newspaper editor named William T. Stead was traveling on the Titanic to New York. He was going to address a conference at Carnegie Hall at the request of President William Howard Taft. But him boarding the ship was surprising in itself. In 1886, he had written a short fictional piece called How the Atlantic Mail Steamer Went Down. Like the Titanic, it was about a transatlantic liner that had sunk when carrying many passengers, and it also lacked lifeboats. In the fictional piece, many people drowned. He believed it could one day become a reality, and he did meet his own fate in that way as well. Next, at number 9, we have Beware of Water. So a first-class passenger named Edith Corse Evans was returning to New York City aboard the Titanic. The cousins she traveled with were a group of sisters, and the four women together befriended Colonel Archibald Gracie. On the evening that the Titanic struck the iceberg, men on the vessel tried to reassure the ladies that the ship was unsinkable, but Edith remembered something a fortune teller told her. Edith told the colonel that her warning from the fortune teller was to beware of water. Edith was convinced that the prophecy held some truth. Even with that warning, accounts of the disaster say she gave up her seat in a lifeboat for one of the sisters she was traveling with, as that friend had children waiting for her at home. It's very nice of her, and it was honored on her tombstone. At number 8, we have George and Edith Vanderbilt. So this Vanderbilt couple was set to sail on the RMS Titanic. Their footman, Edwin Charles Wheeler, even loaded their belongings into the ship 2 days before it was due to set sail because they were due to travel first class. The couple had traveled quite a bit to decorate their home with things from around the world, and this was another voyage coming back from where they were traveling. But then a family member disproved their plan to travel aboard the Titanic. They said so many things can go wrong on a maiden voyage. So the Vanderbilts rebooked onto Olympic, but their footman Edwin decided to travel on the Titanic and sadly lost his life when the ship sank. On to number 7, a gut feeling. Chief Officer Henry Wilde joined the trip across the sea on the Titanic as a last-minute addition to the crew, but he was less than thrilled about his assignment. He mailed his sister a letter during the ship's final stopover in Ireland where he said, "I still don't like this ship, I have a queer feeling about it." And then after that, he sadly became a victim of the Titanic sinking. But his addition to the crew might have been a domino effect in the disaster. Since he was hired last minute, other officers were demoted and one was let go. The one let go was David Blair, who took the key to a cupboard with him. Probably accidentally, but it was an important key. It unlocked the cupboard for the binoculars that were intended for use at the Titanic's lookout. So the crew, as they didn't break open the lock to get into the cupboard, they scanned the open seas without any help, not using the binoculars and not spotting the iceberg sooner. On to number 6, loving life. So this premonition falls hand in hand with common sense. A survivor of the sinking of the Titanic, Renee Harris, claimed that a handsome stranger warned her about the voyage. He asked her if she loved life, and she said yes. In response, he said, "Then you will get off the ship at Cherbourg if we get that far, and that's what I'm gonna do." And yes, he did get off the ship supposedly, but Harris and her husband did not. Unfortunately, her husband passed away after she didn't heed the warning. The reason I say this went along with common sense is because the passengers had seen the Titanic nearly collide with the City of New York steamer vessel by only 72 inches. If I had seen that, I would have hopped off too. 72 inches just shows that something in the steering may not have been quite right. On to number 5, the HARTS. So the family was one that was on the voyage as second-class passengers that planned to start a new life in Winnipeg. So the child, Eva Hart, remembered her mother Esther had a bad feeling about the ship. Her mother said that deeming the ship unsinkable was flying in the face of God. Esther Hart would sleep during the day and stay awake at night in case she heard a bump, and she did. Her vigilance saved her daughter's life and her own. The father in the family gave up his spot for the other women and children to flee and gave his coat to his wife for warmth. Both Esther and Ava made it across safely. At number 4, a voice in his head. When Alex Mackenzie was walking along the gangway to board the Titanic, a voice in his head shared a warning. It said he would lose his life if he stayed on the liner. He looked around and didn't see anyone that could be the voice, so he shook it off. But the warning didn't stop, and he heard the voice a second, and then a third time. Each time it was stronger than the time before. At that point he decided to turn back and return to his home in Glasgow, Scotland. And since it was a luxurious maiden voyage with second or third class ticket he received from his grandparents as a gift, his family wasn't too happy to see him return. But their mood swiftly changed when they heard the news of the disaster. Next, at number 3, we have foreboding. So John Coffey hopped aboard the ship at Southampton since he signed on to serve as a stoker or boiler room foreman for £5 a month. He was scheduled for the trip across the Atlantic, but he hopped off during the stop at Queenstown, Ireland, also his hometown. Weeks after the ship met its end, he said it was because he felt a strange foreboding about the voyage. After that, he signed on to work on another ship. For this one, I would not be surprised if this person maybe made up their story to cover up the fact they were hitching a ride on the ship by working and ditching their contract early for a free ride home. Or maybe they did sense foreboding and were like, I'm gonna go home to my family because that feels safer. It could be either way. Next, at number 2, we have another Edith. Third one of the video. Popular name. So Edith Rosenbaum, aka Edith Russell, was a first-class passenger traveling on the RMS Titanic. She did at one point say the boat was the most wonderful boat you could think of, but she also said she had a feeling she couldn't get over, a feeling of depression and a premonition of trouble. Edith did survive the disaster along with her musical toy pig though. Reportedly, the music that came from the toy provided comfort to the fellow passengers as they waited for help on the lifeboat for 4 hours. She continued to travel extensively throughout her life after that and survived tornadoes, car accidents, and another shipwreck. So maybe her premonitions were helping her. Last but not least, at number 1, futility. So Morgan Robertson wrote a book called Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, in 1898. Although it was written 14 years before the disaster, and that it was 100% fiction, it had many parallels to the real life event. It was about the Titan, the largest luxury liner in the world. And yes, the name is already similar. But here's the kicker. Robertson wrote that the liner sank in the North Atlantic Ocean after hitting an iceberg. So after the event, Robertson denied he had any psychic abilities and that he was working off knowledge alone. He knew of shipbuilding trends and the dangers that modern ships then faced. But still, the similarities are uncanny. Both were seen for the most part as unsinkable, were about 270 meters long, could go as fast as 20 knots, and had a barely legal number of lifeboats. Both even sank 400 nautical miles away from Newfoundland, Canada on an April evening. I wish the crew of the Titanic had read that book so that they could keep an eye out, because that one's just scary accurate. And that is it, that ends it. That is the top 10 scary Titanic premonitions. I myself have only been on small boats on short trips, since I'd rather stay as safe as can be. Like, I consider flying alright because it's short term, but boat trips are longer and I see that as more time for a possible failure. Like, come on, after a list like this, I'm not exactly excited at the idea of hopping on a boat and setting sail. But let me know if you have been on a big boat like this, what it was like, and if anything spooky happened. I'd love to hear about it. And while you're sharing that with me down below, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we post. I've been your host, Abby Kelly, and until next time, have a good one. Bye!